Coming up, the New Jersey Devils win streak comes to an ugly end and the Panthers upset the Bruins. This is Locked On Game to Game NHL.
Every game, every team, every angle. Locked On Game to Game, your team every day.
Welcome in. You're listening to Locked On Game to Game NHL, local experts on all of the biggest stories on the ice. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. Thank you so much for making Locked On your first listen every weekday. We are ready to recap all of the action for you from Thanksgiving Eve. We're going to start out with the Habs, who utilized their defense to steal a win in Columbus. Locked On Blue Jackets and Locked On Canadiens give us the breakdown from the winning and losing sides.
David Savard scored the game-winning goal. Obviously, that was how this game was going to end. Jay Foster locked on Blue Jackets. Goals from David Savard and Josh Anderson in this one as the Blue Jackets fall 3-1 to the Montreal Canadiens after a very messy 6-4 victory last week. They can't seem to bring the same energy today. Arber Xhekaj scored for the Canadiens as well. The only goal scorer for the Blue Jackets was Mathieu Olivier. Just a whole bunch of goals from people that you wouldn't necessarily expect to score goals. Both goalies I thought were very good. And the Blue Jackets just couldn't figure out Montembeault after putting a bunch of goals past him in last week's game. They cannot figure him out today. We're going to talk about all of that and more on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Blue Jackets, available wherever you get your podcasts and also on YouTube.
The Canadiens with a rebounding effort on a back-to-back against the Columbus Blue Jackets. Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Saba from the Locked On Canadiens podcast, and the Habs had an abysmal night against the Buffalo Sabres the previous night, but against Columbus, in Columbus, they were able to rebound. Now, if you look at the underlying numbers, they were more in favor of the Columbus Blue Jackets, but what the Canadiens were able to do was, A, get better goaltending than they did in the Sabres game. Samuel Montembeault had a really good game, and they were able to block a lot of shots. Now, that's not ideal. Essentially, you want to control the game. When you're blocking a lot of shots, that is not control of the game. But they were able to stay toe-to-toe with Columbus. A much better effort both against Columbus from the week before and Buffalo from the night before. The Canadiens were able to pull out the win with timely goals and being opportunistic, capitalizing on the Columbus mistakes. Hopefully, this is the start to a rebounding week after a couple of losses and, that dicey game against the Flyers, which they won. So this is hopefully the start of another trend upwards. For more on the Canadiens, check out Locked On Canadiens with myself and my co-host Scott Matla, available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube.
The Red Wings got themselves back on track thanks in large part to their netminder. Locked On Red Wings goes over a shutout win over Nashville.
I think it's safe to say that the Detroit Red Wings have their confidence back as they beat the Nashville Predators at home 3-0. They did just about everything that Scotty and I asked them to. A team that standings-wise, points-wise, statistics-wise was very close with the Red Wings, and they outplayed them. And nobody played better in this game than goaltender Ville Husso, who registered a 26 save shutout in this one. And it's not about the number of shots on him, rather it's the quality of the saves he made, because he made some absolutely unreal saves in this game. Bona fide number one star status right there. Goals came from Dylan Larkin, who got another opening goal of the game. Phil Pronik continues to stay hot with a power play goal for the Red Wings. Then Michael Rasmussen iced it. The team is now third in the Atlantic Division. I'm going to talk about that on the next episode of Locked On Red Wings.
A statement win yesterday for the Florida Panthers as they handily take down the best team in hockey. Locked On Panthers has more on the Bruins' third loss of the year.
The Florida Panthers get a statement win after coming back home from their 3-game losing skid. What's up, guys? It's Armando Velez from the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, and the Florida Panthers defeat the Boston Bruins by a final score of 5-2 in Sunrise, Florida. And this is a game that had a little bit of everything, with the Boston Bruins getting off to a fast start, controlling possession, and creating so many high-danger scoring chances on Spencer Knight. But the difference in this game was the Boston Bruins taking so many penalties, which the Florida Panthers cashed in on with 3 second-period goals. And the Florida Panthers going 3 of 7 on the power play, now 11 of 30 on the man advantage since November 6th. And even though the Florida Panthers gave up 2 goals being down 5-on-3, the Florida Panthers prevail and get a statement win, delivering the Boston Bruins only their 3rd loss of the season. This could be a momentum-changing type of game for the Florida Panthers for their season. So to listen to my recap of this 5-2 win over the Boston Bruins, make sure to listen to my next episode of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Your team every day.
An impressive 13-game win streak for New Jersey comes to a very ugly end. Locked On Devils explains a messy one at the Prudential Center.
What's up? This is Trent Matthews of Locked On Devils coming to you live from my vacation spot to give you my post-game reaction. So, the streak is now over. The win streak for the New Jersey Devils ends at 13 games, and unfortunately, it happened in not so good fashion because the New Jersey Devils had not 1, not 2, but 3 goals waved off in their 2-1 loss against the Toronto Maple Leafs. It got to the point where fans started throwing beer onto the rink, and they threw other objects as well. Now, I don't condone that kind of behavior. However, you can understand the frustration because the Devils fan base felt as though they got robbed of making history, because it's worth mentioning the Devils were 1 win away from breaking their franchise record of longest win streak. So it's definitely a disappointing way to end the streak for New Jersey Devils, but hey, just got to start another one, and they're still first in the Metro, and they built up a pretty nice cushion. And the fact that the Devils were able to keep it competitive despite having 3 goals waved off really shows a lot about this team and its potential.
Ilya Sorokin turning away all 49 shots that came his way as the Islanders shut out the Oilers at home. Locked On Oilers and Locked On Islanders have the incredible stat sheet details post-game.
The Edmonton Oilers lose their 2nd in a row as they get shut out on the island. Hi, I'm Brett Holden from Locked On Oilers, and the Oilers fired 49 shots towards Ilya Sorokin, but they couldn't solve the puzzle. A 3-0 loss against the New York Islanders means the Edmonton Oilers fall to 500 on the season at an even 10-10-0. Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl snap an 8-game point streak away from home as Zach Hyman fires 10 shots of those 49 towards Sorokin. He couldn't beat Sorokin, but the Islanders could beat Campbell. Despite him giving up 3 goals, a solid performance for Campbell as he stops 28 of 31 with a .903 save percentage to go along with it. The Edmonton Oilers go back at it on Saturday in a matinee at Madison Square Garden.
Ilya Sorokin and the Islanders shine as they blank the Oilers. Gil Martin of Locked On Islanders here. The Islanders blank the Edmonton Oilers 3-0. 2 goals by J.G. Pageau, but the big story of the day, Ilya Sorokin, a 49-save shutout against Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and the Edmonton Oilers. Not an easy task, but the Islanders defense did their job as well. 5 for 5 on the PK, and most of the shots, Sorokin could see them. He didn't allow a lot of rebounds, and the Islanders defense took care of business. So 49 shots, yes, but not as many quality shots, and Sorokin was excellent when he needed to be. This is an Islanders type of win, and it's something they can build on as they move forward after this victory. Want to wish everyone a very happy Thanksgiving. For more on the Islanders, listen to and watch the Locked On Islanders podcast with me, Gil Martin, wherever you get podcasts.
Coming up, Alex Ovechkin reaches another milestone. This is Locked On Game to Game NHL. Today's edition of Locked On Game to Game is brought to you by BetOnline, the #1 spot for all of your online sports betting needs. No matter what you want to put your wagers in on, you can do that at BetOnline. Of course, the World Cup is in action right now, and there are some very enticing NFL games this week. And whatever you want to do, just head over to betonline.net. It's where the game starts. Welcome back to Locked On Game to Game NHL. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every weekday. Alex Ovechkin, of course, scores the overtime game winner for the Capitals as they take down the Flyers, and also hits another personal milestone. Locked On Flyers and Locked On Capitals join us with all of the details.
Alex Ovechkin's 790th goal is good for the game winner. Hi, this is Dan Holme of Locked On Capitals. Well, it was a good feeling for the Capitals to get back into the win column after they had lost 4 games in a row. This was a team that admitted to feeling frustrated and deflated at times this season. Alex Ovechkin on the win. It's an important 2 points. We was struggling, was in kind of a hard position, but it's a good thing we battle through it and get the 2 points. This game also saw the return of TJ Oshie into the lineup, who had missed the last 11 games. I think that TJ Oshie is that catalyst, that good feeling that helped push the Capitals over the top. This was a game that saw goals by Sonny Milano, Marcus Johansson, and Alex Ovechkin. Darcy Kemper saved 21 of 23 shots. The Caps hope to keep the winning going as they take on the Calgary Flames on Friday. Keep it locked to Locked On Capitals, and I will keep you updated on all the news with your Washington Capitals. Locked On Capitals, your team.
This is Russ Cohen for the Locked On Flyers podcast. Flyers drop another one. Their 8th straight loss. They lost 3-2 in overtime to the Washington Capitals. Alex Ovechkin scored his 25th career overtime goal, number 790. Obviously, he's a legend, but the Flyers blew some leads here and, again, made some bad plays late, giving the Capitals an opening, and they took it. Flyers were 0 for 4 on the power play. A couple of those power plays generated very few shots. Flyers did get goals from Morgan Frost and Patrick Brown, but largely not a great effort in the end, and that's what really matters. Even if you like their first couple of periods, that's great, but they haven't figured out how to lock down a lead, and they haven't figured out sometimes how to get off the ice when they're tired. So that's it. Catch us on the podcast.
The Ducks are extra thankful this year for John Gibson and their first regulation win of the season thanks to the New York Rangers. Locked On Ducks calling in some backup to break down Wednesday's win.
Hi, I'm Jason Hernandez of Locked On Anaheim Ducks.
Oof, and I'm Sarah Avampato, and I actually have a voice, unlike this guy over here. Believe it or not, the Patos de Anaheim finally got a regulation win against the New York Rangers. Well, believe it, the Ducks avoid sharing history with the Phoenix Coyotes in a 3-2 regulation victory at the Pond, ending that horrific streak at 19 games. Despite being outshot by way too much, John Gibson literally saved the day, including with a couple of godlike saves in that first period. I mean, that one stick save, that was ridiculous, wasn't it? Yeah. Well, also, Troy Ovechkin got the game-winning goal despite there being like 4 Rangers defenders around him. How did that happen? Yeah, exactly. Anyway, tune into tomorrow's Locked On Anaheim Ducks to see if Jason has any voice left to celebrate this big victory. All right, bye.
2 teams met up yesterday, and they are heading in very different directions. The Senators now last in the East, while the Golden Knights continue to be the best in the West. Locked On Senators and Locked On Golden Knights go over a predictable finish in Vegas.
So the Ottawa Senators are tied for dead last in the NHL. I'm Ross Levitan from Locked On Senators, trying to make sense of a 4-1 loss in Vegas to the Golden Knights, where Ottawa took the game to Vegas for most of it. They've pretty much dominated every underlying number. The one that matters most up on the scoreboard certainly went in Golden Knights' direction. Ottawa's now lost 12 of its last 14 games, and things are supposed to get easier as they play the Anaheim Ducks. And now, whoever loses will be last, 32nd place. For more, visit us on the postcast and tomorrow on the Locked On Senators podcast. It's your team every day.
Vegas Golden Knights win this one by a score of 4-1. Hey everyone, Chris Golick, Locked On Vegas Golden Knights here. The fans are chirping a bit as Nick Hague goes to the box late in the game. Vegas Golden Knights win a game that they didn't necessarily need in the sense that things have been going bad, but it was important for the Vegas Golden Knights to batten down the hatches and take care of a lot of the little things they have been not doing as of late. Folks, for everything Vegas Golden Knights, please check down the Locked On Vegas Golden Knights podcast, your team every day.
That's all for today on Locked On Game to Game NHL. Thank you so much for making Locked On your first listen every single weekday. Make sure that you go and subscribe to Locked On NHL and your team's Locked On podcast for more hockey news and updates. I'm Kainani Stevens. This has been Locked On Game to Game.